The past 2 years of distributed work and accelerated digital transformation have changed work for the better for knowledge workers who work from a desk. But what about the other 80% of the global workforce who is highly mobile and works in the field? I'm Miles Skoda, and this is the Field Technologies webinar series. Today, we're taking a look at key findings from the 2022 State of the Deskless Work Survey, how to better retain and enable your mobile workforce. Joining us for this presentation to help us explore this rapid digital transformation's impact on mobile workers and discuss the survey results is James Huddleston, Senior Director of Product Marketing from Schedulo. We'll be taking questions throughout the presentation to ask to James at the end, so feel free to submit questions as we go along. We'll get to as many as possible during the Q&A, and any that we don't get to, we'll follow up on after the event. Now, just a couple housekeeping notes. If you run into any issues, please try refreshing your browser first. And if you need additional support, submit a question via the Q&A, and I'll help get you back on track. Now, finally, the webinar will be available on demand, usually within about 24 hours, and you'll get an email afterwards with a link. So with all that said, I'm going to turn it over to James to get us started. James?
All right. Yeah, thanks, Miles. As Miles mentioned, I'm James Huddleston, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Schedulo. Very excited to be here and walk you through the findings from the 2022 State of Deskless Work report. But just also want to thank Miles and Field Technologies Online for hosting us and allowing me the opportunity to present to you all today. So as I mentioned, today's plan is to walk you through the findings of the second annual State of Deskless Work survey. I'm going to provide you an analysis of the results, highlight some of the more surprising findings and key takeaways so that you can kind of take those back and apply what that means to your business going forward. I also want to make this as interactive as possible, so I've included a couple of polls just to kind of keep you on your toes as I go through the presentation. So look out for those in a little bit. But before I jump into the survey results and methodology, just want to give you a brief overview of Schedulo. So at Schedulo, we build software for the 80% of workers who don't work in a traditional office setting, specifically those workers who provide services in the field. We have customers like DHL, American Red Cross, and Sunrun, who all rely on Schedulo to manage and simplify their complex scheduling needs, better manage their workforce, and equip their employees with an easy-to-use mobile app to help them better perform their day-to-day operations, increase customer satisfaction, and reduce operating costs. And today I hope to apply some of the expertise we have from the hundreds of customers we work with as we look at the results of the State of Deskless Work survey. So let me jump into the survey methodology. Just to provide you an overview of this survey, about, I'd say, roughly 6 months ago, we really wanted to explore how, deskless or the mobile worker experience has changed and shifted over the course of the past year, and how specifically coming out of the pandemic may have affected the mobile worker experience and what this means to businesses like yours going forward. And as I mentioned, this is the second annual State of Deskless Work survey. So another thing we wanted to do is see what's changed since 2021 and what potential progress has been made from the results we saw in 2021 when it comes to your mobile worker, field worker, workers experience. In this workplace evolution, I think impacts all of us. But what we found is so much of the discussion and the narrative and the media attention has been so focused on desk-based, white-collar knowledge workers. So we wanted to know, have mobile workers experienced the same gains as desk-based workers, or are their divisions growing? Have they experienced or like desk-based workers being provided more flexibility and autonomy in how and where they work? And we really wanted to explore that in detail through this survey, and ultimately just try and arm you all with what that might mean for your business as you manage these deskless and mobile workers. So we surveyed 500 mobile workers based in the United States, as well as 500 desk-based employees by comparison. We asked these employees about their job experiences, expectations, thoughts about their workplaces to discover how changes in autonomy, flexibility, and technology impact mobile worker satisfaction, productivity, and retention. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the results from the survey. So first I want to start with, what are 4 key trends? I wanted to summarize some of the biggest takeaways we had from the results of the survey. So first, mobile workers want more autonomy and flexibility, and amazingly, over half would leave their job to get access to that autonomy. So, the pandemic gave your employees a new level of control over how and when they work. But mobile workers, people like, home healthcare providers, solar panel technicians, traffic control professionals, and many, many more, have historically lacked that flexibility and autonomy over their working hours and location. But one of the key takeaways I would take from the results of this question specifically, look for ways to provide your mobile workers, your field workers, access to mobile technology that allows them to work more autonomously. Give them the information they need to do their jobs more effectively at their fingertips, and where possible, make sure it's really super easy for them to communicate, both with, let's say, a central office or service center, and the customer as needed. And the less you can have them doing things that they would consider quote unquote busy work, like filling out manual paperwork, manual notes, especially back in a sort of physical or central office location, the more autonomous they'll feel. So getting them to appointments or service locations, also with minimal drive time, will also help this feeling of having more autonomy and flexibility in performing their work. So look for ways to look for technology that incorporates drive time optimization to reduce that windshield time for your workers as they deliver services. Secondly, the second trend or key takeaway we saw from the results of the survey, nearly half, 47% of mobile workers would prefer increased autonomy and flexibility over a raise or over a company that would actually pay them 10% more. I found this to be the most surprising, but also weirdly the most encouraging result of the survey, because I know worker retention is a big challenge we all face. And this result, this survey result indicates to me that the answer isn't always simply paying the workers more money, paying people more money, but we need to equally focus on how we help enable them to do their jobs more effectively and autonomously. So I think I just find it fascinating that, I think it's important we consider both the compensation increase and how we help an employee feel more empowered in the work they do. And I think this frankly applies not just to the mobile workforce, but to any employee in any business. And then third key takeaway from the survey, lack of purpose-built technology is a major obstacle for your workers, because it was cited as a major challenge. By a quarter of mobile workers are saying that they're hampered by insufficient technology and limited flexibility. And I touched on this a bit earlier in the first key trend or key takeaway, but to me, this is a little less surprising. Your workers feel like they don't have the right tools and technology in order to do their jobs effectively. And I know digital transformation is, it's a bit of a buzzy term and has been around the field services industry for quite some time. But I do believe that if the pandemic has done anything, it's really accelerated the need for businesses to adapt to rising consumer or customer expectations. And these rising expectations not only apply to the customer, but to your mobile workforce as well. And ultimately, investing in the right technology for your business should positively impact things like, service resolution time, customer satisfaction, and like the survey results indicate, increase your worker satisfaction and ability to work more flexibly. The good news is I compare this result to the results of the 2021 State of Deskless Work Survey, is that we're seeing a lot of organizations bridge this gap. And we're seeing that with our customer base as well. Technology adoption and investment is increasing for mobile workers, for field workers, though very slowly. In the 2022 report, we found that 17% of mobile workers responded that their organization uses fully digital processes. which is actually up. It's made gains from 2021, up 6%, or up from 6%, so 11 percentage points from our 2021 State of Deskless work report. But even in spite of these gains, what was also came through in the survey is that 83% of our mobile workers are still using paper processes in some capacity, which, just frankly kind of blows my mind, but is an area of opportunity for us. And then fourth key trend or key takeaway, mobile workers empowered with purpose-built technology are twice as likely to be very satisfied with their job and over 50% more likely to stay at their job for the next 5 years. So what I take away from this, is while mobile workers seem to largely enjoy their roles, they aren't feeling tied down to a specific employer. And I think this makes sense because the U.S. workforce just experienced a year of record-breaking turnover in a very employee-driven labor market. So as a result, I think mobile workers are realizing their value as irreplaceable frontline employees delivering essential services. And they're more empowered than ever to seek out employers that match their work preferences. So keep in mind the work preferences of your workers as you seek to better enable, retain, and even recruit them into your organization. All right, we are going to kick off with the first poll. So first question is, what is the most surprising finding from the survey so far? So over the 4 trends that I just went through, which one do you find the most surprising? And I'll give it about 20 seconds, 15, 20 seconds for you all to respond.
So James, I'll hop in here. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit.
Yeah,
I think one of the most surprising things to me was you said that 30% of people are still using paper that you've talked to?
Actually, the number was 83% of respondents indicated that their company uses paper processes in some form. Now, it might be just one part of their workflow, but yeah, that was a surprising to me, but also indicates to me an opportunity for companies to look for ways to reduce that manual effort and increase, which I think will ultimately increase productivity.
Yeah, I mean, it still says to me, if you're using paper at some point during your process and that paper fails, the whole process is going to fall apart. So, I mean, you want to get rid of that paper as quick as possible and kind of just, get moving into something digital. Let's see. So I'm also looking at these results. What are you thinking that people are normally seeing as the most surprising? What have you kind of found? It seems to me, I mean, nearly half of mobile workers would prefer increased autonomy and flexibility over a raise. That did seem pretty surprising. I mean, the fact that people are prioritizing that over the raise. Now, I'll say that's how I would prioritize it, but I'm not a mobile worker. I'm working at a desk, and so it's completely different on my end. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, honestly, that's the one that stood out most for me was that half of the workers would just want to feel more empowered and autonomous in the work they do, and they take that over a 10% raise. I think what's interesting to me as I thought about this one is I think naturally we as humans kind of think that, more money will solve any problem. And I don't suggest that compensation isn't important when thinking about employee retention and employee recruitment. But I do think we as organizations need to be thoughtful about also how are we helping our workers feel like they are empowered with the right tools, the right technology, like you said, less paper-based systems. How do we help them feel more effective in the jobs that they're doing, and also take into account their work preferences? So, things like drive time, reducing drive time, taking into account where they want to work and what hours they potentially want to work. I think all those things need to be thought of in addition to potentially like compensation increases. That's how I took the response to that question.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll hit you with the results and shoot it back to you. We got a direct split down the middle on the first 2.
Wow. Yeah, and yeah, like I said, I think the second one for me was a big surprise, but I'm actually a little surprised that even the first one was it's a split. But I think what will be interesting to see, and I'll touch on this in a little bit, as it relates to the over half of workers would leave their job to gain access to more autonomy. It'll be interesting to see as we see tightening. If it becomes less of an employee driven work environment where they may not have as much power as they did, let's say, during the pandemic to move jobs as frequently. So that may shift when we do this survey next year, but it'll be interesting to monitor. All right. Well, thanks, Miles. Appreciate your help with that. Let's move to, so I went through some of the kind of 4 key trends that we're seeing or we saw from the results of the survey. Want to deep dive into some of the additional results. Specifically, one of the questions we asked, what would more autonomy and flexibility mean to you as a mobile worker? So I found this, again, a bit surprising, but I think the results really kind of speak for themselves. It's, to me, it's amazing to see what an impact empowering your workers can have on their motivation at work. And so what I take away from this is that enabling them to work more autonomously will allow them to be more productive, which is really a win-win for you. For you, it means more revenue and more efficiency, more operational efficiency for your business. So, I think that speaks for itself. And then what other challenges were cited in the survey? And before I get to the results, this is what we asked. We asked specifically the mobile workers, what other challenges do they have on a day-to-day basis or are impacting their ability at work? And before I go to the results of that, I want to actually ask you all, see what you think from this pick list. What do you believe your workers' biggest challenges are from this pick list? And what'll be fun about this is to see how well your responses line up with how your mobile workers responded to the question in the survey, and really see how in tune you are with your workforce. So I'll give it 10-15 seconds for you all to respond.
Yeah, perfect, James. I'll hop back on. We can maybe talk about this a little bit while everybody's taking responses. My guess is going to be limited autonomy and limited flexibility, because based on the results of our last survey, I think that people are going to find that those are the most likely, complaints that they're getting even, but most likely the challenges. It does seem like, though, I've seen a lot more recently that the insufficient information has been one of the bigger ones, and has kind of been popping up more. Access to that information, getting that digitally instead of having to fumble through papers and things like that makes a big difference, and it makes people's jobs a lot easier. Is that kind of what you're feeling?
I do. Yeah, we hear that a lot from our customers, from the market. I think that goes back to, how do you provide that information, that access to information for your workers at their fingertips? How do you make it easily accessible? How do you make it so that they can effectively do their job in a much more streamlined way? Make sure that they're not having to go, input manual notes or use any paper processes or fax machines, as we've even run into customers who are still using fax machines as part of their workflow and part of their process. So there's a real opportunity, I think, here for businesses to lean in and to increase their operational efficiency, while also helping their workers feel more enabled and feel more autonomous in the work they do, and ultimately feel more motivated and satisfied at work.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to fax something last week, and please don't ask me to fax anything.
I think I'm trying to remember the last time I used a fax machine, but it's been a few years at least. I mean, even a printer is something I don't regularly use on a daily basis. So it's amazing how times have changed.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing I'll talk about real quick. I think managing the workload seems to be something that I've heard a few times, and I've talked to a couple. I've talked to a couple of our readers recently about similar things. That with paper scheduling and paper processes, being able to manage workloads and kind of just be on time for things has been a real challenge for the field service workers when having a mobile device, being able to get their changes to the things they're doing throughout the day on demand. It just seems so much more efficient, and I have a hard time seeing any downsides, and that's for sure.
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I've got results in. Everything's it's looking like a pretty good split across everything. So take a look. I think nothing heavy weighted, which is pretty good, but also pretty bad because it seems like there's a lot of challenges across all the different types of employees.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it is interesting that it's split so much. We've touched on a few of these for sure, like the insufficient information. Not a surprise that people would think that. I think with their workers, you touched on managing their workloads. I think that is an issue, frankly, for all of us. But yeah, we'd love to see how these line up relative to what we saw from the survey. Right. And let's see. What we found that mobile workers, and this was one of the tied I saw, and one you pointed out, Miles, managing their workloads was the top, rated as the top challenge for your mobile workforce or field workforce. And I think we can all empathize with that a little bit. But as I think about, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, some of those macroeconomic headwinds, potential for recession, I think it becomes even more critical for businesses to seek out that technology and tools that help us reduce those manual workflows that, Miles, you and I were talking about, helping your workers be more productive. And even as I think about the potential for a recession, I think that definitely could mean increased competition for a lot of the services that you provide. So I look at companies who've invested shrewdly and smartly in technology that enable their workers to be more autonomous, to have that information at their fingertips, like you all cited, will be a distinct competitive advantage for those companies who've done that well. So the next question the trend we dived into was, we've heard a lot about this, the concept of, having the right technology to empower your field workers, to help them be more autonomous and productive. And we've talked about a lot of the reasons why this is important for not only you as a business in terms of potential for increased revenue and great reduced or increased operational efficiency, as well as enabling your field teams. But let's dive in a little bit more into why this is really, really important for you as a business. This is one of the biggest trends we've seen, and I know this is not necessarily new or it can be maybe obvious to many of you, but rising consumer expectations. Your customers expect information to be at their fingertips. They expect real-time service and information. And we as B2B tech or services companies, we're now being held to a higher standard here, because the user experience we're competing with is no longer other companies that are in our industry, but actually with big, large-scale consumer-based applications like Instagram, Uber, Apple, Google, companies with massively deep pockets who have raised the bar, frankly, when it comes to how we interact with our service providers, with how we interact with applications and technology and mobile technology. So that's, it's a big challenge for all of us. And this trend of rising consumer expectations doesn't just apply to your customer, it also applies to your field worker as well, because they also expect to easily be able to engage with, the service center or the physical, like the operations center, and the customer via mobile. They want your workers want and need information on their customers and how best to complete a job or service or task or appointment. They want that all available at their fingertips. They want that on their mobile device. And they want their preferences taken into account when they're being scheduled to complete a job or manage an appointment in the field. And I truly believe kind of the right purpose-built technology can allow them to feel that a greater sense of autonomy in the work that they do. And with the right technology, they can feel more empowered and ultimately be more productive. And then, so one of the last things I wanted to leave you with is, as you go out and you look at technologies to better support your business based on a lot of the results we saw from the report and from the survey, what should you consider when evaluating your technology solutions? So, whether you've already started your digital transformation journey or just now are looking at investing in technologies that can better enable your workers, just wanted to give you some quick tips to include in your evaluation criteria. So really the first is make sure the technology is purpose-built. And I know I've talked a lot about this already, but one way to do this or to kind of pressure test this with a vendor, line up what that tech vendor states as their value props relative to your top, let's say 3 to 5 goals as a business. And really, really ask, will this technology help you achieve those objectives? Does it line up with your key objectives, your goals in the near term? And then secondly, make sure that technology is optimized for mobile, not only from a worker perspective, but from a customer perspective as well. And take that through the lens of the experience for your mobile workers and your customer workers. Because with those increased expectations, the mobile experience must be clean, seamless, and easy to use. And then finally, make sure any technology that you're deploying is taken through the lens of the customer experience. Because really, at the end of the day, what matters is how your customers feel about the services that you provided or that your company provided to them. And I believe that a happy, motivated, enabled, empowered mobile or field worker equals or equates to a happy customer. So if you can enable your field teams with the right technology and technology that allows them to do their jobs more successfully and feel more motivated at work, that will lead to a higher quality of care or service to your customer. I know we've all probably seen those statistics about the importance of a first impression when it comes to customer service. So make sure that any technology you deploy is geared towards creating a better and lasting positive experience for your customers. So with that, I'll pause for questions.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, James. So I've got a few questions here from our audience. I've got a few that I've come up with as well that I'd like to know more about. But the first one I see here that I'm not even going to ask you because I've got the answer to it is somebody was asking, this was about a report. Where do I get it from? So in the bottom right corner of your screen, there is a resources tab. I've uploaded the link there. So just click on the link and it will take you to the website where you can download and access the report. And easy as that. And then I'm guessing if they want any questions about the report or anything like that, reach out to you. I think I've got your contact info in the left page, or really reach out to me as well, and I'll get you connected to whoever wants to. It's an interesting report. There's a lot of good data in there, a lot more than we probably talked about today. So, it's worth a download, and it's worth something to look at for sure. So let's see. I'm going to move along here. So somebody's asking, compared to like the 2021 report, are there any other, I guess, insights or trends that have really emerged in the 2022 version that are notable?
Yeah, good question. I know I touched on one, which was that we did see progress when it comes to companies have made some slight gains when it comes to providing more technology to empower their workers. I think, we saw that it went from, employees feeling more empowered. I think it made it an 11 percentage point increase. So some nominal gains, not massive progress, but definitely some progress. So that was a positive. The other thing I would mention in terms of how this compares or relates to the 2021 report, one of the things that came through was that, and I take this as a positive, I think more companies, more field service companies are realizing the importance of empowering their workers through investments in technology, and prioritizing this as one of their top, let's say, three goals or objectives as a company. Whereas in the 2021, that while it was acknowledged that it's important to provide purpose-built or the right technology to empower their field service workers, it wasn't cited as a top three initiative for them as a business. So I think that actually is a positive that I think companies are realizing not only the need to, because of it increases their motivation, it increases worker retention, but also that there are positive business benefits that we've cited already, but like, reduce or increased operational efficiency, increased customer satisfaction, and potentially even an increase in revenue as you can start to potentially handle more appointments or more services or deliver more services in a more effective and streamlined manner.
Gotcha. That's perfect. So I've got a question that just popped in here that I think is really good. Sure. So someone's asking about, I guess I'm going to reword it like this. So they're asking how to balance staff flexibility with client scheduling flexibility. Do you have any insights on that? Like how do you kind of be more flexible with your staff when you have client schedules that have to be accommodated and timings, which seems like probably one of the harder things to do?
Yeah. That is I love that. It's a very challenging or very, very hard challenge to manage that, because I think one of the things I would say, and there's no easy answer to that, but is the first step is taking into account both your workers' preferences in how they, how and when and where, but also just as, if not more importantly, your customer preferences. And then using technology to kind of marry the two for optimal, like, okay, then I know Susie can deliver this service based on her preferences, based on her geographic location, that aligns to this customer preference of having, of where this person lives, or the fact that they want to have service outside of their home, for example. So, I think step one, as I mentioned, is being able to capture through technology your customer preferences and your worker preferences, and then use technology to kind of marry the two to see where there's to see where there's kind of optimal overlap, and that'll allow you to better, frankly, take into account your customer preferences. But again, not an easy answer and not an easy solution to a hard problem, frankly.
Definitely, I think if you just had an answer right now, you'd probably be able to solve the entire problem with anything in the industry. That would be pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You've got to have, one thing I've talked to people about and that I've kind of noted is some staff members aren't too worried about flexibility. So it's really just also having the right people. If you have someone that can be a little, that is happy with being less flexible and maybe getting paid a little more or something like that, they're going to be able to accommodate the schedules more, and then you have a more flexible team to handle your regular stuff. So, having a mix of the right staff is always important. The right people in there.
Love that. That's a great call. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So let's turn to the survey, because that's what we talked about a lot here. Somebody was asking about the industries or types of companies represented in the survey. Could you talk more about that?
Yeah. There were quite a few. I don't know that I can rattle them all off, but I'll do my best. Let's see. Definitely, there was industry representation from manufacturing, food service, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, telecom, energy and utilities, nonprofits, education, government was another one, public sector. So I think those are, at least off the top of my head, those are the ones I would name. But there are, quite a few industries represented through this survey.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with so many people surveyed, it seems like you definitely hit most of the industries across it.
Yeah.
So let's see. I've got somebody asking a question about, I guess, a specific question about products. So they're asking, do you have any? Does Schedule have integrations that you offer with major CRMs or payroll systems or things like that?
We do, yeah, we absolutely. We integrate with many of the largest workforce management systems. So, like ADP, just to name one, SAP. We do with CRMs like Salesforce. We have an integration with Salesforce and a strategic partnership with Salesforce, but other CRMs as well. And I think what's unique about Schedulo is that depending on your systems, your technologies, we are a platform-based SaaS application. So we are actually very extensible into your and very can kind of seamlessly interoperate with just about any of your technologies, assuming that those technologies have, say, open APIs. And even where not, we can work with your development team to figure out how best to integrate Schedulo into your ecosystem of technology. So yeah, absolutely. And for whomever asked that question, I would love to, kind of love to walk you through that if you want to reach out to me directly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, James. That's definitely a question we get a lot about different things. I mean, integrations are super important, getting everything to work together, and so that's great to hear.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Did we lose you, Miles, or did we lose me?
Oh, I think I fell off there for a second.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was me or you, but
my bad, everyone. Sorry about that. So I actually think with that, that was good timing for that disconnect. I've got a few questions left. They're pretty specific, so I think we're going to skip those and save those for you later, James, and we'll pass those along to you. So with
Sure.
all that, audience members, I just want to say thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate your time, appreciate the questions, and you all being here. If you have any more questions, you can reach out to James. His contact info is on the left side in the speaker panel, along with mine. So if you need to connect, either one of us, I can get you connected to him or help you out with anything. And James, again, great presentation. That was an awesome overview. The report's available, bottom right corner in the resources tab if you want to get the full report. And with that, we're happy to have you all here, and we're going to see you next time. So thanks again, and bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye. Thank you all. Thanks, Miles.